Okay, so this video is going to help you with the Picture Perfect Trigonometry Assessment. Before we actually begin the assessment, I just want to make sure we talk about a few things, some review material. So a long time ago, we learned about two trig functions called sine and cosine, and we learned that sine and cosine both have a pattern. We learned that for sine, the pattern is we start at the axis, maximum, axis, minimum, axis. And this is our pattern for one complete period, whatever that period happens to be. We also learned that cosine has a pattern, and cosine's pattern for one complete period is maximum, axis, minimum, axis, maximum. So I'm going to keep going back and forth to these two patterns depending on if it's a sine or if it's a cosine. We also learned some transformations. We learned the number out front of the word is called the amplitude, and that's going to tell me how high to go above and below my axis of wave. We learned that the number in front of x is called your frequency, and we need that in order to find the period. My formula for period is t equals 2 pi divided by b. If there's a number in parentheses, that's my horizontal shift. We always do the opposite. If it says plus 1, we're going to go to the left one. If it says minus 1, we're going to go to the right one. And lastly, we learned that if there's a number out back, it's called your vertical shift, but we give it a special name, and it's called the axis of wave. So we're going to use all of this information to practice graphing the 8 trig functions on this piece of paper. So these 8 trig functions will make up one big graph. What we're going to do is I'm going to do 3 of these with you, so that you know exactly what to do, and then you're going to finish the rest of this on your own. So we're going to start off by looking at this first graph. We're going to look at number 1 together. And before I actually go graph number 1, I'm going to write down the things I already know about it. So because it is a sine graph, I know what the pattern is going to be. I know that this is going to be an axis, maximum, axis, minimum, axis pattern. I know that the amplitude is 3. I know that the axis of wave is going to be 18, and I know that b is pi over 4. In order to graph, I need to find out what t is. I need to find out the period. And period equals 2 pi divided by b, and b is pi over 4. And we learned a long time ago, dividing fractions is easy as pi. You're going to flip the second and multiply. So if I multiply 2 pi times 4 over pi, we get 8. And that's my period. So I know my amplitude is 3, my axis of wave is 18, and my period is 8. Knowing your period will help you decide how many blocks to move. In order to figure out how many blocks to move, you're going to half this twice. So half of 8 is 4, and half of 4 is 2. So every 2 blocks, I'm going to move in my pattern. Remember what my pattern is for sine. Axis, maximum, axis, minimum, axis. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go graph it. Before I start, I need to label my y-axis and my x-axis. I need to get up to 18, but I also know because my amplitude is 3, I'm going to need to be 3 above it and 3 below it. I've already counted the y-axis, and it only goes up to 18. So what we're going to do is we're going to count by ones, but I'm going to start my y-axis at the number 4. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And I need to label the 18 because that's my axis of wave. We draw a dashed line right here, and I'm going to put a K there. And I'm going to expect to see that on your paper also. I also need to label my amplitude, 3 above it and 3 below it. So 3 above 18, 19, 20, 21, that's your maximum. I expect that to be labeled. I also expect your minimum to be labeled, which will be your amplitude, 3 below it. So 17, 16, and 15. So my expectation is that you're going to have the K labeled, the maximum labeled, and the minimum labeled first. Now what I'm going to do is go label my x-axis. I know that I have to get out to 8 because that's part of my restricted domain. And it's easy to get out to 8. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to label that 8, and I'm going to label this 1. So the labeling part is done. Now I'm going to go graph, and I'm going to follow the pattern, axis, maximum, axis, minimum, axis, and I'm going to move every 2 blocks. So I'm going to start on my axis of wave on the y-axis. I'm going to go over 2 blocks, 1, 2, and I'm going to hit the max. I'm going to go over 2 blocks, 1, 2, and I'm going to go back to the axis. I'm going to go over 2 blocks, 1, 2, and I'm going to go down to my minimum. And I'm going to get over 2 blocks, 1, 2, and I'm going to go back to my maximum. I've now completed the graph, and I'm sketching it very lightly with my pencil. Then what they want you to do is they want you to only focus on the restricted domain. This is my restricted domain. That's telling me I want to focus on the part of the graph where x goes from 6 to 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 6. And that point right there is 6, comma, 15. Here's the 8. And that point right there is 8, comma, 18. So that's the part of the graph that I'm going to focus on when I go move it to the big picture. Okay, so let's go graph another one together. The next one I wanted to do with you is a cosine graph. So we're going to go look at number 3 so we can practice a cosine. On number 3, my amplitude is 3 again. My b is pi over 4 again. This time I have an h, which tells me I'm going to go 1 to the right, and my k is 15. So we need to find the period again. So we said period is equal to 2 pi divided by pi over 4. Well, we did that earlier, and we found out that it was 8, so that's your period. To figure out how many blocks I need to move, I half it twice. Half of 8 is 4, and half of 4 is 2. So I'm going to move every 2 blocks to the pattern. The pattern for cosine: max, axis, minimum, axis, max. All right, so now I just need to go label my x and y and then graph my pattern. So when I'm labeling my y-axis this time, I have to get up to 15. And I know I need to be 3 above it. 3 above 15 is 18, so this works out perfect. So I just start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Remember I told you to label your axis of wave. So make sure you label that. I know because my amplitude is 3, I need to be 3 above it. This is my maximum 18, I need to label that. I also need to go 3 below, so 14, 13, 12, and that's my minimum. So you have your axis of wave. Because my amplitude is 3, I went 3 above it and 3 below it. Now we're going to graph the x-axis. I know that I have to get out to 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so remember we're going to move every 2 blocks, maximum, axis, minimum, axis, maximum. But this time, instead of starting on the y-axis, it tells me I have to shift 1 to the right. So my first point, my first maximum, is not going to be on the 0 like it was earlier. It's going to be on the 1. So when x is 1, I'm going to be at the maximum of 18. And then I'm going to follow my pattern. I'm going to move 2 blocks to the right and hit the axis. 1, 2, axis. Follow the pattern. 2 blocks to the right, down to the minimum. 2 blocks to the right, up to the maximum. 2 blocks to the right, up to the max. So max, axis, minimum, axis, max. And I'm going to go darken in the domain they want me to focus on. They want me to focus when x is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is where x is 5. And that order pair is 5, 12. And they want me to go to where x is 7, which is right here. And that order pair is 7, 15. So in a minute, I'm going to show you how to take these little pieces that we highlighted and put them on the big graph. So you'll go do the same thing for number 2. You'll do the same thing for number 3. Let's look at the back. On the back, I'm going to go do number 7 with you because it has 2 domains, and I want to make sure you understand how to do that. So on the back, my amplitude is 3 again. I'm going to move to the right 2. My K is 9, and I need to go find my period. So the period is going to equal 2 pi divided by pi over 6, which is going to equal 12. And then I told you to figure out how many blocks you're going to half it twice. We're going to half it, half it. Half of 12 is 6, and half of 6 is 3. So we're going to move every 3 blocks. Now, we have to have a quick conversation. This is not a regular cosine. This is a negative cosine. Regular cosine goes max, axis, minimum. Because this is a negative cosine, my pattern is going to be minimum, axis, maximum, axis, minimum. Because there's a negative, I'm going to start with the minimum. Okay, so let's go ahead and label our x's and y's again. Because my k is 9, I have to get up to 9. That shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's my k. I told you that I expect you to label it. My amplitude is 3, so I need to be 3 above it. So 10, 11, 12. I need to have that one labeled. I also need to be 3 below it, so 8, 7, 6. And I expect that one to be labeled also. So this is how this side should be labeled. My x-axis needs to go all the way out to 14. So on the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And this time, I'm going to go to the right 2. So instead of starting on the 0 line or the 1 line, I'm actually going to start on the 2. So this is what line my first point will be on. And my first point is going to be on the minimum. And we've already labeled the minimum as 6. So my first point is 6. And then I'm going to move 3 blocks to the right. 1, 2, 3. And my pattern says hit the axis. I'm going to go 3 blocks to the right. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go up to the maximum. 3 blocks to the right. 1, 2, 3. Down to the axis. 3 blocks to the right. 1, 2, 3. Down to the minimum. I'm going to go lightly sketch that in. And then again, I'm only going to focus on the restricted domains. So they want me to focus when x is 2 to 5. So this piece here. And that ordered pair is 2, 6, and 5, 9. They also want me to highlight 11, 14, which is right here. 11. And that order pair is 11, 9, and 14 is right here, and that order pair is 14, 6. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing for 5, 6, and 8. Now, after doing this, we're going to take those highlighted pieces and we're going to move it on to what we're going to call the final picture. When you're doing the final picture, I know, because I've already done this, that I need a y-axis that goes up to 18 and an x-axis that goes all the way to 14. So for some reason, when we made the copy, we did it backwards. We really need to go this way. Okay, so this is the direction you turn your paper. We're going to count by ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 18 is up here at the top. Then we're going to count all the way over. I know I have to get to 14. So on the bottom, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it gets all the way to 14. Okay, so let's go practice moving graph 1. So I need to go plot these 2 points on my graph and then connect them exactly like it looks here. So I'm going to go graph the points 6, 15 and 8, 18. Okay, so 6, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to go up to 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's the point 6, 15. I also need to go graph 8, 18. So here's 8 down here at the bottom, so I got the point 8. And then I'm going to also go all the way up to 18, which is already labeled. And then I'm going to connect them just like it looks in my picture. Okay. The next one I'm going to go look at is number 3. And I'm going to go graph 5, 12, and 7, 15. So I'm going to graph 5, 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 5, 12. And then I'm also going to go graph 7, 15. So 7, 15. And that's that part. So that's what we have so far. The last one I'm going to look at with you is number 7, and that's where we have 2 restricted domains. We're going to graph 2, 6 to 5, 9, and then we're also going to graph 11, 9 to 4, 6. So I'm going to graph 2, 6. I'm going to graph the point 2, 6. And I'm going to connect that to 5, 9. Okay, I'm going to move that up 1, 2, 3. 7, 8, 9. Here's 9. Okay, so 5, 9. Okay, so those two get connected. And then I'm going to go do 11, 9 to 14, 6. So 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to go graph 11, 9. So 11, 9. And then 14, 6. Okay, so I'm going to let you finish the rest of the assessment by yourself. Remember that in order to get all your points, to read the directions, read exactly how I'm giving points, make sure you have all the labeling that I have. I want the K labeled, the max labeled, the minimum labeled, your x-axis, your y-axis, everything that we did together, I expect for you to do without me for the remaining graphs. At the end, you can take all those remaining graphs just like we just did and go put it on the big graph. It's worth 20 points to get those put on there correctly. Your due dates are at the bottom. Good luck with your assessment. I'll see y'all after Thanksgiving.